First and foremost, we would like to thank the professors of Women and Gender Studies, who have invested their time, energy, patience, and personal journeys into our undergraduate experiences. These professors have guided us and stood by us in facing the most challenging academic and emotional landscape that Women and Gender Studies is. For example, Professor Montoya continually encourages us to engage in the radical act of self-care in our activism and in our academics. She always reminds us that feminism is a process and to meet others with compassion and respect wherever they may be in their own feminist journey. Professor Buffington's humor and intellectual commitment to women and gender studies has allowed us to begin to engage with the multifaceted issues such as sex trafficking, sex tourism, migrant labor, and masculinity in a global context.
Professor Misri has taught us how to critically question representations of violence in various forms of media and their larger implications. Professor Bayard DeVolo has taught us how to examine gender within war, revolution, poverty, and politics in Latin America, and in doing so has encouraged students to declare majors and minors in women and gender studies. Professor Oliviero's rigorous classes have challenged students to complicate and nuance their feminist foundations and engage with topics in their full complexities. Professor David has enriched our Women and Gender Studies program by co-directing the LGBTQ certificate and bringing crucial fields such as gender and disaster, as well as transgender studies to CU-Boulder's campus. Professor Jacobs has taught us about gender, genocide, and mass trauma, helping to illuminate the ways violence becomes remembered and memorialized in collective memory. She teaches about heavy topics in a manner that allows students to feel empowered and informed, rather than leaving lectures feeling defeated. Professor Jagger enlightens students at CU about the roles that feminism and gender play in philosophical debate regarding global justice. We are also grateful to the affiliate faculty members of Women and Gender Studies who have brought many intriguing classes into the program and who have assisted in various community projects. Each of these professors adds academic rigor, vibrance, and unique perspectives to the expanding fields of Women and Gender Studies.
We would also like to thank our peers. We are so proud to be graduating with a class of such dynamic students, and we want to thank all of you for your ongoing efforts to challenge one another, learn from one another, and support one another. Throughout our Women and Gender Studies journey at CU, we have found academic solidarity amongst one another in preparing for presentations, papers, and examinations, but also in learning how to face some of the most complex issues that this world has to offer. We have learned and normalized inclusive practices such as naming our preferred gender pronouns and providing trigger warnings as a part of our daily classroom activities and icebreakers. We have learned about each other's causes and how to be allies and agents of change. Each of you have shared this time of your life with us and have created the tight-knit community that makes Women and Gender Studies so different from other departments. It has been a privilege being a part of the Women and Gender Studies community, and everyone involved has made this experience a special one. May we all continue to use our voices and our knowledge to challenge injustices, and may we all thoroughly enjoy our own journeys in self-love and self-discovery.
Most people go to college hoping to find their place in the world. In Women and Gender Studies, we learn the significance of our positionality in the world. That is, how our race, class, gender, sexuality, disability, and other parts of our identities shape our everyday experiences and interactions. We learn about how different components of our identities give us power, insight, and potential vulnerability. Realizing our similarities or differences informs our ability to collectively advocate for one another's needs.
We learn to speak to our own experiences and listen to the voices of peoples whose experiences may or may not match our own. We learn that feminism does not need to be treated as a bad word and that it is not a subject we need to tiptoe around. But we do learn that feminism is more potent than any other F word. Feminism is plural, and there's no one overarching feminism, but many individual and collective feminisms that depart from their own truths and their own relationships to systems of oppression.
Most people expect to graduate from college having found themselves. But as Women and Gender Studies majors, we graduate with the need to ignite a revolution, fueling our passions for creating long-lasting and meaningful social change. Although we have different visions and methods regarding how we enact that positive change, they stem from a desire to build a more inclusive and equitable world. From this moment on, each of us will take our feminist toolkits out of the classrooms and into the streets. We will march on to face adversity head on, lodging a defense that pushes back on the paradigms that teach us that certain people's lives are worth more than others.
We will attempt to subvert discursive perceptions that tell us that certain people's suffering is less tragic. We fight the battle of intervening in a discourse that tells certain people that they should not even exist. We fight for a world free of victim blaming, shaming, and the myths that surround innocence and violence. Not only do we fight for ourselves, but for the prospect of larger liberation, because women in gender studies teaches us that no matter how different our struggles are, our freedoms are inextricably linked.
Women in Gender Studies teaches that our work in social justice involves building from those that have come before us, continuing to question, explore, and expand upon existing theories, collaborations, and movements. We have inherited a world that is shaped by legacies of slavery, colonization, mass trauma, and other forces of domination. Women in Gender Studies teaches us how these forces influence the present moment and how we can work towards a more equitable future.
Our work is in recognizing injustice in all of its subtle and significant forms in order to deconstruct that which already exists and to reimagine better ways of being. We encourage everyone to challenge that which is perceived as natural and therefore left unquestioned, therein potentially reaffirming existing power differentials. We challenge you to join us in stopping dehumanizing discourses in their tracks and in preventing further violence and hate. And we hope to inspire you to move towards adopting a set of personal politics that engage in radical kindness and inclusivity.
We encourage you to acknowledge and appreciate those around you who embody a lived experience that may or may not match your own. Difference is valuable, painting the canvas that is our world with an array of pigments, textures, and patterns that each play an integral role in creating a cohesive whole. But artists are seldom satisfied, coming back to their work to enlarge the original vision and continue to add, change, and customize components to make the world more compelling. In the eyes of every artist, any masterpiece is uneven, ongoing, and always imperfect. We challenge everyone to view the world as a community art project, giving every person the opportunity to leave their mark. Art is a mode of revolution, radicalism, performance, rearranged meanings, and self-representation. Carefully consider the mark you want to leave and how it will affect the larger picture. If you find yourself unsatisfied or if you learn something new along the way, it is never too late to repaint.
If Women in Gender Studies has taught us anything, it is that there is great beauty and love to be found in oneself and in others when we seek out the stories that are unspeakable and the stories that have been silenced. There is great value in facing and embracing that which may be difficult and uncomfortable to deal with, and learning to appreciate the parts of our experiences that are transformative, ambiguous, unpromised, and unstable. It may be frightening to upheave all that may seem established and static in exchange for multiple truths and ongoing puzzles. But Women in Gender Studies has taught us to be brave and to accept the challenge to be who we truly want to be. Women in Gender Studies gives us the courage to collectively imagine a world that nourishes and celebrates all of our different ways of existing.
Thank you.
Thank you.